guys, how's it going? So, we're finally in December. It's been 2 months since I was able to post anything to YouTube, but I am in school, going for a second degree, and so the fall semester just thoroughly ran me over, but I did survive. I'm rather proud. I did very well. Today I'd like to talk to you guys about why I love film, and movies, and filmmaking, and everything that goes with it. So when I was in high school, I went to a high school that had a magnet program for media arts. Now, media arts kind of falls under the gambit of TV, movies, film, camera work, sound design, radio, broadcasting, journalism, computer animation, graphic design. The high school I went to had all these things. So I took full advantage of it. When I was in high school, for the 3 years that I was at this particular high school, I learned a lot of different things. I learned how to write very well. I learned all about studio, production, broadcasting, journalism, radio, and a little bit of film. I had a really cool media arts teacher that taught the film classes, and he was also a musician like myself, and so he taught me how to use cameras, how to do production, how to do video editing, sound editing, and a little bit of computer animation. I was really good at math back in high school. Those were kind of my things in high school: math, media, and chemistry, and music. So I had a lot of good times in high school. I wish I could go back. So, talking about movies in general, this video I want to kind of introduce what I think are the most pivotal movies that I saw as a very young child. And I'm talking like 3-4 years old. They weren't kid movies, I should probably warn you. They were real movies that I saw when I was very young, and they had a profound impact on me because I saw them during those really crucial developmental years. So the first movie I want to talk about is La Bamba. Now, La Bamba came out in 1987. I was born in the mid-80s. And it's about the story of this young rock and roll kid from the 1950s and his kind of rise to fame. And it's a very tragic story. It ends very, very tragically. And I won't spoil the ending if you don't know the story or never saw the movie. But when I was about 3 years old, I saw this movie for the first time. And it's one thing that really inspired me to want to play guitar and really pursue my musical talents. And I did. And I must have watched this movie constantly when I was a kid. And I would always come back to this part where he's on stage, he's playing guitar, he's playing a song that most people think is going to go badly, and he's just rocking it. He doesn't care about cultural barriers, he doesn't care about racism, all he cares about is his music. And that level of passion and talent that he had really transcended, it transcended all these barriers and borders, and it didn't matter that he was playing a Mexican folk song, it didn't matter he was playing rock, it didn't matter what he looked like, if he spoke Spanish or not, which he didn't, by the way. All that mattered was how talented this person was and how he brought stuff to people in the way of his music. This was a very important movie for me when I was a kid. And I venture to guess that most of you watching this who love movies and who love film in general have at least 1 or 2 movies in your childhood and your early development years that you saw that had a profound impact. Maybe you saw a movie about a lawyer. Maybe you saw a movie about science like Back to the Future and inspired you to go into engineering or science, or maybe you saw or read something that was very profound and it drove you to the career path that you're pursuing now. That's kind of what movies, to me, do for folks, is they tell very compelling stories and they give us things to dream about. They give us aspirations to pursue and different ideas and different types of ways to pursue our daily lives. The second movie I want to talk about is another one of my favorites. I saw this when I was very young. It is Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Now, I saw the Terminator 2 movie before I saw the original, and it came out in the early 1990s, like 1991, 92. It was directed by James Cameron, who is one of the greatest filmmakers and directors of all time. This is a movie that I saw at a very young age, and it is a very violent movie, and for a 5 or 6 year old to be watching such a violent movie, it wasn't that bad, okay? I'm not a crazy person, everything is okay. What it did do was it really got me into sci-fi, science fiction. For most people, getting into science fiction drives them into going into real science, learning about computers, learning about physics, learning about robotics. Movies like that, I think, inspired a whole generation of engineers and scientists to pursue that question of, can we build computers or systems or robotics that are that advanced? Right now, the answer is pretty much no, right? Our smartest computers still only do what we program them to do. So you don't have to worry about Terminator, launching any, nukes or anything like that. You don't have to worry about those types of systems because they just can't exist, right? The human brain is so powerful. There's no way in our current time frame, within 100 years, we're going to be able to develop that amount of computing power. There's just no way to do it. But it was a very cool movie. Introduced me to, Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the characters that he had played since. I went back and watched all of his movies when I was a kid. Commando, Conan, all these really interesting stories that he portrayed. Terminator 2 for me is one of the best and most groundbreaking sci-fi action movies ever, because the sci-fi and the practical effects still hold up to this day. I just recently rewatched this movie for this video, and even on high definition on a huge TV, it holds up. You can't tell that it's fake. When you're immersed in this universe, you're like, oh my god, I'm watching a future war zone where robots have taken over the planet. And so when I look at movies today, and I see the CG that they're using today, I'm like, it doesn't really even hold up, and it's brand new. It has 3 times the budget that Terminator 2 had, and Terminator 2 is more interesting and more compelling than these newer movies coming out that are just completely CG. I'm like, if I want to watch a video game, I'll go play a video game, and I can actually control what's happening in the video game, and I'll get a more enjoyable experience than watching this piece of shit. So for me, when I watch Terminator, it's my benchmark for all sci-fi movies. If I see a sci-fi movie that doesn't at least hold up to Terminator 2 in terms of storytelling, in terms of cinematography, movie making, action, I just check out. Now, before I talk about my third movie, it's kind of like a top 3 for me as a young kid, I want to make one honorable mention, and that mention is Top Gun. Now, Top Gun isn't really that great of a film. It's not that great of a movie. It's kind of like a really long MTV 1980s music video. But what it really is a very interesting and cool story about a naval fighter pilot in a time where they're not really at war. But they still do show and make you have that feeling of when you're on a carrier, you're on a big battleship, or you're a pilot, or you're someone who's in the military, even during a time of peace, it's still very dangerous. People die, people get hurt, conflicts do occur on a daily basis. And this movie kind of reveals that, and it's a very interesting story. It's also the type of movie that I discovered as a young kid that I could recite every movie line in any movie. Do the characters, do the voice, everything, to a T. Used to drive my parents a little crazy. I still do it. It drives my fiance a little crazy because I can't seem to stop myself when we're watching a movie, and it probably is very annoying. But yeah, Top Gun. It's one of those great movies. If you've never seen it, go watch it. It has Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is an amazing actor. It was directed by William Scott, who is a pretty good film director, and you should probably definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it by now. Okay, the last movie I want to talk about real quickly before we wrap this up is the original 1989 Batman. Now, me personally, I am a Batman fanatic. Now, I don't have the money to go off and build a Batman, man cave in my basement. Or, I do have some Batman memorabilia from my early childhood that I found on eBay, and I love it. I just love looking at it. I don't play with any of the toys. I have them all in their nice little protective package, and I just like putting them in my display cabinet and looking at stuff like that. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of an innocent time when there was no bills and no work, and it's just a great time. All there was Batman. I love Batman. But the greatest thing about this movie, it was directed by Tim Burton, so he brought a very, very gothic and very, very dark, morbid sense to the character that hadn't been previously given to the character since its inception in the comic books in the 1930s. So when you see Batman just saving Vicky Vale, thrashing the Joker's goons, beating the crap out of everybody, for me as a young kid, I was completely sold on Batman. I'm like, this is the character that I love. I love that he stands for justice. He stands for people who are helpless, who don't know how to defend themselves, and he's gonna fight for them. He's gonna give it to people who are giving it to other people, and that for me was a really cool concept. But in the movie, when I used to watch this, I used to have the VHS tape. I used to watch the VHS tape when I was a kid. And I used to rewind this part over and over, just watching Batman beat the crap out of these bad guys. And so, until this part happens, I'm already sold on Batman. And then this happens. Yeah, this guy jumps over a wall. and he pulls out swords on Batman. Now, what does Batman do? Is Batman scared? No. He just stands his ground and knuckles up like, okay, let's do this shit. And they do. It's an awesome fight sequence, and he is just completely calm in the face of someone trying to kill him with, Chinese fighting swords. And he wins. He front kicks the guy right in the face. He's on the floor, game over. So for me, that was kind of the start of my whole fanboy for Batman type of thing. And I used to read the comics, I collected all the toys, I used to watch the animated series every day when I came home from school, homework first. That was one of the motivations for me to do really well on my homework as a kid, because I would come home from 2nd and 3rd grade, I would do all my homework, and then I could go watch Batman, because Batman was on at 4:30 and I got out at 2:30. So I was really trying to get homework done. I used to get homework done before I left class so that I could make it in time to watch Batman. So Batman, yes, I owe all my success to Batman. No, not really. I owe all my success to my family. But Batman helped. He helped a lot. So anyways, guys, we're in December. We're coming up on Star Wars. We're literally 5 days away from watching the new Star Wars movie. I'm an epic Star Wars fan. I saw Star Wars when I was a small kid. I was about 10 or 11 years old when they re-released the original Star Wars movies. And yeah, you don't just take a 10-year-old to go watch Star Wars in the movie theater and not expect the kid to be a complete fan, nerd, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the first time I saw a lightsaber and I saw those ships flying around in space, my mind was just completely blown. I couldn't handle it. I was too excited for my own good, and I love Star Wars, like everything else. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Again, sorry it took me 2 months to make this video. So anyways, guys, what are your guys' favorite movies? What are the movies that you saw when you were a small child that you remember from 3, 4, 5 years old that really changed your life? What are the things that you guys love to watch? What are the types of movies you guys like to watch today? Let me know. Leave a comment down below, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.